Nancy, did you have a lobster dinner for tonight?
I actually will be back there in June.
Oh,
All right.
Hey, Colin.
Hello. Out of curiosity, does anything, the draft list that was attached to the agenda, would that have changed from the meeting at council? So,
There's been a couple of changes.
okay. I'll wait till we get started then.
No, you're fine. But yeah, I can pull that up quickly and you can see what those changes are. And then I have a list, a spreadsheet of just all the two funds for the projects, so we can do a running total and all that fun stuff.
Nancy's on top of it.
Yes.
No, it's not. Just
Realistically, I mean, there's things that we have to fund, as they were talking about, and there's not really a heck of a lot of other stuff that we get to really pick, and that's fine. I mean, there's some stuff that just needs to happen, and I apologize for having to bail out early. I know Carl was able to hold the fort down, and I saw Kate chimed in at one point.
you did.
Yeah, I've actually got the attachments for the last meeting with council up on my other laptop here because it's bigger so I can see better. But as you get older, sometimes the glasses, you need all the help you can get.
I have multiple screens for that reason. Like, I need a little laptop.
Yeah.
Lightweight is great.
Yeah,
Size is not.
I'm on my MacBook over here where you can see me, but I've got my bigger laptop over here so I can look at things on that. So yeah, we do the same thing. Yep. Nancy, I don't have everybody's screen up. Should we wait a minute or two? Are there more?
Yeah. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a quorum. I'm not sure who's on the iPhone 6. Is that a commissioner or a member of the public?
Public, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't want anybody to miss the introduction of Brian, so let's wait another minute or so if that's all right, Nancy.
Oh, yeah, whatever you'd like.
Okay.
May have had a slight panic tonight when about 5 or 10 minutes ago, my wife's like, wait, aren't you going to your meeting tonight? I was like, am I going to the meeting tonight? Is it in person? had to double check.
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to do in person with the numbers that we have?
Which numbers are you talking about? Case
Well,
numbers?
we could do it in the community room, I suppose, but they'd have to set up a lot of tables and a lot of microphones.
Did we record
fine
our
with
meetings
Zoom,
before we went to virtual?
Yeah.
They were recorded, just audio recorded.
Oh, just
Colin.
audio. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, now they get to see our smiling faces.
And now we have to put a shirt on.
Yeah, but you can be
You
in
have to do that
shorts
either
and
way,
pajamas
Carl.
on the lower half of your body. That's fine, right? Your TV
Yeah.
agents do that, right? Well, Nancy, let's go ahead and get started. Seeing that, no, I don't see anybody else to. Is Judy not going to be with us today?
I'm sorry?
Is Judy not going to be with us today?
I did not hear from her.
Okay.
And I haven't heard from Kate.
Okay, all right. Well, I saw that one email from Judy said she's going to be gone, I don't know, the 7th
Yeah.
or something like that, but not tonight, so.
And I haven't heard from Meg. Oh, well, Meg's here. So
Yeah.
we'll get started. So
Yeah.
Kate Townley is absent. Ms. Donaldson,
Here.
Mr. Haggerty,
Here.
Judy Brown, I don't see her yet. Kate Fuller,
Here.
Noel Atkins,
Here.
Carl Adams,
Here,
Brenda Hubka,
Here,
and Aaron Martinez, our alternate. I don't see him. And Chair Austin.
Here,
A quorum is present.
okay, great. Before we get to the public forum, I'd like to call on Brad, who is going to introduce to us our new planning manager for the city of Englewood.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, everybody. For the record, my name is Brad Power. I'm the Director of the Community Development Department. And I do appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes prior to your meeting to introduce our planning manager, Brian Isom.
Who's in San Francisco, it looks like.
Yeah, it could be. That's a quick trip. Just saw him a couple hours ago. Brian joined us last week, so he's in week 2. I'll let him talk a little bit about his experience, but he immediately past was the planning director, City of Lubbock, Texas. So he has a variety of experience in the planning realm, and we are most excited to have him on our team. He's getting into the Code Next project, our housing analysis, and obviously spending a lot of time with the planning team as well. Getting to know their work and starting to think about the priorities going forward. So, as I said, on behalf of all of us in the department, we're really pleased to have Brian join our group, and I'll turn it over to him for a couple of words. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Uh-oh. Brian, I think you're muted still. I'm not sure. At least I can't hear you.
I know you did the unmute. I hate when that happens and the computer doesn't want to turn its microphone on. Way life goes.
yes, his phone. And then you can be double muted. Muted on the app and muted on your phone. That happens a lot.
Okay, it says connecting to audio. Are you there yet?
Yeah, is that better?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So again, I'm Brian Isom. I'm coming here from Lubbock, Texas for the last 2.5 years, and then 5.5 years in Arlington, Texas. You know, in Arlington, the city adopted a new Unified Development Code in 2015. So I got a lot of experience being one of the first in implementation folks on that one. So getting to interpret the code and work with the code. And then in Lubbock, I spent the last 2.5 years helping them write their Unified Development Code. For them, it was the first one that they have worked on in over 45 years.
Oh,
So it was a big change. But, you know, I bring some of that experience to the city, and I've really enjoyed the last week getting to meet you know, not only the planning staff and the community development staff, but all the staff in the city. So far, I think they all do an amazing job, and I'm just looking forward to working with you all and our council and getting this code adopted and finishing up the housing assessment study. So if you have any questions for me, feel free.
well, I see that Kate Townley just joined us. Brian, it sounds like you were made for this position if you've just been through code rewriting in 2 different locations. So what was your experience like, and what were some of the biggest hurdles in that?
You know, I think every city has their unique hurdles. Some cities have hurdles with signage, some with housing. I think overall, the biggest thing that I learned from both organizations is to make sure that as we're writing our code, we get as much public input as we can. but also to work with our professional staff internally to make sure that we create a code that's operable, meaning that we're not, creating any barriers internally that we weren't intending to, or, to make sure that our code is repeatable and predictable for the development community and the community as a whole.
And just one more quick question. I don't want to take too much of your time because I want others to be able to ask some questions too. But did you have consultants involved in both those projects?
We did.
Okay.
And I do have to warn all of you, I have a 3-year-old roommate that may be making some noise from time to time. I'll try to mute it if he's yelling.
Gotcha. Any other questions from the commissioner?
I just want to say welcome, and also just appreciate the help that you're going to provide, and looking forward to getting this code written. I'm sure Brooke and Brad are as well. So just happy to have you on board.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commissioners? All right, well, I will echo those sentiments and say welcome, and we all look forward to working with you. We can certainly use your experience. Sounds like it's perfectly made for us. So, okay. Now it's the public forum, and this is the opportunity for the public to address the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding items that are not on the agenda. The commissioners can ask questions for clarification, but there's not going to be any dialogue between the public and the commissioners. So I think we do have at least one person on the line. Is that right, Nancy?
We do. Magnolia Cook, do you wish to address the commission?
But thank you. No, I was just hoping to watch.
Absolutely. All right, thank you.
Was that iPhone 6 or something? So we know.
That dropped off, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was me. I've since upgraded.
Okay.
That was fast. You upgraded very quickly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, were there any submitted to you, Nancy? Any other comments from the public?
There were not.
Okay. All right. So the next item on the agenda, we don't have any minutes to approve, it doesn't look like, at least not on my agenda, was the 2023 Capital Improvements Project. And I'm guessing I'm calling on Brad or Brooke or.
Well, actually, yeah, Brooke here. I'm going to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
So thank you, Michelle, and thank you all for coming tonight, including Magnolia. And I do have an iPhone 6, I think, still. So
I do. I certainly do.
I'm a little bit behind, but I still have that. But again, thank you all for coming. And we are just to echo, we're very excited to have Brian with us. So you'll probably be hearing a lot more from him moving forward. But tonight I did want to just kind of introduce our main topic tonight, which is reviewing the 2023 capital projects list. And I know you guys have done this in years past. I had to kind of get up to speed quickly. I was gone all last week. And so I haven't necessarily seen a lot of this list, but nevertheless, it's teed up for us tonight, and I think we can make some significant progress on it. Last Monday, April 25th, I believe that was, a week ago Monday, there was a city council meeting where department directors presented basically the budget moving forward, the capital project budget. And I know that some of our commissioners attended that either in person or virtually. I don't think everybody did, and I certainly did not myself. But that was kind of a more of a presentation by individual departments on their budget requests. But our task tonight is to go through the capital projects list. And I know attached to the cover memorandum that was in your packet, there is 301 pages of budget related items that have to do with the entire plan. And we do not want to get too into that 301 pages, because what Nancy has provided is what we really need to look at, and that is a very condensed spreadsheet that only involves the projects that you guys are going to weigh in on. And that is from Fund 30, the Public Improvement Fund, and Fund 31, which is the Capital Projects Fund. And so we're going to go through those and prioritize those. I haven't been as much part of that the last couple of years. Wade was, but I think some of you guys have been through this, so you kind of know the drill. But we also have the ability, and I don't know if you have it up, Nancy, I think I might, but if we need to zero in on any one of these projects and get a little more information on it, that isn't that 301 pages, but we can get some more information. More importantly, if you have some more specific questions, or if we can't find it, ask a question about a project, and we will reach out to those departments that requested that project and get more information, because we want to be able to make a recommendation by June 9th to the city manager. And so we really have this meeting, our second May meeting, to kind of make some decisions on these items. I just wanted to add one other thing from a sort of monetary standpoint. We're only looking at the tier 1 projects. There's tier 1 projects, tier 2 projects, and tier 3 projects, and those total, all of those projects total 15.9 million. The tier 1 only projects total 12.1 million, but the available funding is only 8 million. So our task is to choose what the Planning Commission feels is the best spent dollars for $8 million out of this $12.1 million of tier 1 projects. So with that, I guess first I would say, are there any questions about kind of the process? And myself or Nancy or Brad or Brian, we can try and answer that. But short of that, we could start going through the list. So are there any questions about sort of the process and what we have before us?
Looks like Meg.
Yeah, I do have a question. I didn't want to jump in, but I guess I was just trying to, because it sounds like the 12.1 are all of the tier 1 projects across all of the funds. So we're not trying to eliminate to get these projects we're looking at to the 8 million. Is that correct? We're just prioritizing what we think is the most important, or are we actually trying to get to a dollar amount for the projects we're looking at?
That's a good question. I think that's across all the funds. Brad or Nancy, do you have any input on that?
The 8 million is for the 2 projects that you're looking for, is my understanding.
Is only Fund 30 and 31.
Correct. And those are the 2 funds you're looking at this evening.
Okay. So it does sound like we need to, for lack of a better term, cut $4 million out of these tier 1 projects.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks.
Then Colin asked earlier, before the meeting started, if there were any changes between the city council joint meeting to the list tonight. Does the commission want to quickly look at those changes or just dive right into the list?
I think if they impact the conversation, yeah. If not, I mean, I think we can go into the list, although it looks like Michelle's got a question also.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So basically, there's 4 million of projects, tier 1 projects that are not going to be funded. What happens to them just in general?
Well, I go ahead.
Well, I can try to address that. Those would remain on the list. They would just not be funded this year. So they would come back for additional consideration in future budget years or be re-tiered in terms of future priorities as well.
Okay, because I think it was last year, city came back to us because we had an extra 2 million or something like that to spend because it was COVID funds, or I don't know where it came from, but there was extra money to allocate.
Right.
Okay.
Colin?
And I think we can also decide to partially fund some things if we want to do a little bit. So maybe some of the funding needs to come out of the 24 budget, but maybe we at least get things started if that's an option. And I mean, obviously that's something that we'll just have to kind of work through, and hopefully everything's just going to come up really easy because Nancy's already got a spreadsheet set up to go through all these.
Meg?
Thanks. Sorry, this isn't as much a question maybe as just a comment. As I was reviewing this and when I listened at the meeting last week, and my recollection from doing this last year, which is, you know, wishy-washy because it was a year ago, I don't know if it's possible for future years to get an idea of what was spent in each of these categories over the last year, or, you know, we prioritize and make recommendations to city council, but a lot of these are kind of ongoing projects. And I guess it would just help me understand, one, if they're like shovel ready projects, which I don't think we know necessarily for all of these. And then also what funds were put into it last year. So I don't know, maybe that's just a comment if that's possible to do when we're evaluating this. I think that would be helpful.
And I just have a comment too, just to refresh everyone's memory, is that Colin's right. We can change the numbers, and we frequently do or have done in the past. What ends up happening is that we make a recommendation to city council, and city council can effectively toss everything we wanted out and make up their own. So, that being said, we do need to consider this very seriously because city council, you know, it's a lot of money, obviously, and we don't want to make sure we're doing the best thing for the city. So we can't take our job lightly.
So getting to Meg's question, I wouldn't have that tonight, Meg, but I can try to find that report and send it out and have it for the next meeting if the commission wants to utilize that to make decisions.
I also pulled up a worksheet that I had from last year when we did this. Of course, it's all scribbled up and everything, but I might be able to give it a little bit of an indication of what we did last year.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
But here's all the projects. We have Fund 30, and then lower down, we get into Fund 31. And I would just point out this art in public places will be 1% of what the commission recommends out of just the Fund 31 column. So I'm here to plunk in numbers as you so wish.
Yeah, so I think Nancy, you were going to, if there was some consensus in the commission, you were going to try to put some numbers in the recommended and potentially be able to keep a running tally of where we are at. Is that what some of your thoughts were?
Yes.
So do you think we should just go down line by line and sort of get a temperature check on
Maybe
each
before
one?
we even do that, I'm sorry, no, let me just go real quick. There are certain ones that do have matches and things like that we have to put a
Yeah.
certain amount in.
Mhm.
Are those identified at all where we could just say, okay, these are, you know, if we want to get the money that we are matching, we have to do these. And so therefore.
Yeah, we did that last year too. So that's a good place to start. That's a very good suggestion.
So I can answer that, and then Noel, I'll be right to you. So where I've marked in red, I checked with our public works director, and these three, I believe there's only 3 projects, are, so the contribution to a little, it's 50,000. Here would be 250,000 for a grant. And then they're going to, Public Works, the city's going to be applying for this 1.2 million. So that's what she has provided.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to throw those
No,
into the recommended, just so we get those with the running.
Noel, you had your hand up. Do you have a question, or did that answer it?
That was my exact question. Thank
Okay.
All right, so does everybody agree that, well, let's go ahead and let Nancy put those amounts in the recommended column of those projects that are part of a grant or a match or some sort of alternative financing? Start and see how much that it adds up to. So we're not going to put in the Old Hampton because we're waiting for federal funding. Is that correct, Nancy?
That's what was indicated to me, that they're going to apply for it in June. Now, if we don't get it or don't receive it, does the commission still want to put in the 1.2 as a recommendation, Kate?
Sorry, I was trying to look. So I thought on the slides that Brooke had, like this Santa Fe Pell bike ped wasn't included, but that still is included. That's what I was trying to figure out, what is, if these are still on this project list. Unless I was looking at it wrong. I thought that the slide that you had, Brooke, that showed the projects didn't have an amount for like the Santa Fe Pell and something else.
I did not have any slides up. Are you referring to the 301 pages?
Okay, I must have been looking at something else then. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
think I confused it with the bike ped bridge. So never mind.
I see a lot of hands up. Nancy, do you want to call on them?
Yeah, sorry, Kate Fuller, you have your hand up?
Just a quick question. So if we're looking at the packet, can we also look at pages 14, 15, 16 to see what you're also updating in the spreadsheet, Nancy? Are those the updated tiers?
That's my, yes.
Okay, awesome. And then also I was just wondering about the 12 million, because I didn't see that totaled anywhere. Are we just looking at request 2023?
We're just looking at 2023. So
Okay.
down here, we're already at 300,000.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Colin,
If it does help, I do have the spreadsheet that we suggested last year. I don't know if that is what got finally selected, but it's what we came up with for our 3.5 million. So if we do have questions like on the pavement preservation or pavement maintenance by area, you know, we put in 1.8 million. So I can share this at some point in time if we need to or want to.
Great.
no?
I'd like to see if we can identify what the penalty is for deferring some of these. Yeah, just, you know, if we don't do Old Hampton, for example, does it next year, would it be 1.5 million to do it? I don't know if there's any ones on this list that have an obvious value like that.
Okay, we can put that question to the Public Works Director. Meg?
So I was gonna go back to the match conversation that we were having, if that's okay. I guess on the Old Hampton complete streets, you know, if they're applying for the funding in June, that they would, you know, be notified of award this year and potentially be able to start the project next year. If we allocate or recommend the 1.2 to move forward, if they don't get funding in June, is there an opportunity to remove that and add other items in place of that? Or I guess, how does that process work? if it's unknown at this time.
I don't know the answer to that question.
I
Okay.
don't either. I don't either.
But we can try to find out.
Because
I
it
know
seems like if
direct-
we got the federal funding, it would be important to have it available for the matching pending the duration of that award. Or to Noel's point, maybe it is delayed a whole year.
Well, and Meg, part of your point was also to talk about the timing. Maybe we should put a number in there so that if they'll know before the end of the year if they're getting the grant or not, but if it behooves them to go ahead and get started and we have a little fun for them, that's another possibility, waiting for the grant money to actually hit the door.
Noel?
And
Oops, sorry, Noel?
I was going to say it, Nancy, sorry, this is Brian. I was going to say
Oh,
it might
sorry.
be easy to provide that, contingency of if we get this grant funding, then we would like to fund these 3 or 4 additional projects. But if we don't get the grant funding, we would like to fund this. That might be kind of a way to structure it.
Good point.
Oh, no, looks like Noel took his hand down. Carl?
On the Union Bridge, the single hauler trash is making a big deal about all the traffic on the streets from the trash trucks, and that Union Bridge takes all of the waste management trucks going over that bridge. Have we gone to them to try to get some funding from them to rework that bridge that they're driving all our trucks over? Be a public service thing, public works.
I don't think we know that, Carl.
I can,
Amongst us here.
raise my hand.
I would imagine that is a publicly owned bridge, a publicly owned road. I'm not aware of any requests from the city for waste management to approve or fund a public bridge improvement.
Well, and I would imagine the company would say we pay gas taxes just to fund that stuff, so.
Colin?
Going back to the Old Hamden match, is that anticipated to be the total cost of the 1.2 million right now? And then therefore we could potentially get federal funding, or was our match going to be 1.2 million for that project? Do we know?
I apologize. That is the exact wording she provided.
Okay. And I know Director DeAndre did mention if we didn't get funding that we would have to kind of assess whether it's something we wanted to move forward with, on our own. But considering that last year, again, we did have that kind of special $2 million that was determined to be a budget excess. I feel like if we have a project that isn't going to be funded, or maybe, and as I'm saying that, maybe it wouldn't work because we could still fund the project even without them. I think we would have the opportunity to reallocate that funding at a later time if we wanted. But if our contribution is 1.2 million, I think we should put it in there for now to make sure that if we get the federal funding, that we're having that match would be where I would go.
Brenda?
Yeah, I just wanted to answer Carl's questions because I was on the trash committee. So the waste station over here at Oxford Station, Waste Management pays a certain amount. I think it's about $7 per resident that dumps trash over there, and the city of Englewood gets that. However, Republic uses the Commerce City Waste Station, and we don't get any money of that. So if we ask a trash company to pay more to use the station, they'll probably just go to Commerce City and we won't see any tipping fee at all, unfortunately.
That's very interesting, Brenda. I just want to take a quick pause here. What is our timeline tonight? Do we need to have all of our $8 million allocated tonight, or do we have additional meetings? Or I just want to clarify what we're trying to do so we all can make it happen.
My sense is you need to make some really good progress tonight. And then, we need to develop whatever questions we have to reach out to the departments, to the various departments that their individual requests are associated with. But there will be another opportunity on the 17th to kind of for us to report back on any questions and for the commission to kind of finalize some things. The final date is June 9th, but I believe that there will be a commission meeting before that, but I think it'd be kind of cutting it close. Do you have any input on that, Nancy, or anything to add to that?
I have two things.
Okay.
First, if we can go back to, I got an answer for this particular item for the Old Hampton Complete Streets. That is for design costs only to get the project started. So if we do not receive the grant, we can go back. Director DeAndrea said we can go back, or you can go back and request that and put it back in. Now, on timing wise, it would be best if we could have decisions made by May 17th, so then we can approve the minutes on June 7th. So then the memo can go to city manager no later than June 9th.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
And I'm
thanks a
sorry,
lot,
Brenda.
Nancy. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say thanks a lot. I just wanted to be mindful that I'm trying to plot out the rest of the evening, how long we should be spending on each item. So I just wanted to get an idea of what we should do. Okay, it looks like we've gotten through at least those items that were in red that are shared costs. Any other discussion on those?
So you're at 1.5.
Okay, great. All right, so comments, what your priorities? Let's keep moving down the list here.
Meg?
Thanks. I guess I was looking then following those at kind of the bigger ticket items. So I guess in my mind, that would be the pavement maintenance and Dartmouth Avenue. And Colin, this might be where your knowledge from last year historically will come into play, because I believe we decreased that amount by a pretty significant, like not maybe half of that, because it was such a large dollar item, and I think they said they could do with less. I don't know if you have that handy.
I can, sorry, I'll jump in. We put 1.8 million towards pavement maintenance last time. Again, like you said, I think that was when we had those discussions, they thought, they'll do what they can with it. So we thought that was reasonable to reduce that. And then also the West Dartmouth Avenue reconstruction, we did completely cut that one. But I think that's something that's a priority for the city this year. So I think we kind of kicked the bucket on Dartmouth. It was 500,000 last year. And so maybe that goes to Noel, what you were saying. They're requesting $1 million this year, probably is to, not necessarily because it costs that much more, but they were probably going to try to do 500 maybe. And now I think we're getting close to the point where if that project's going to go, we need to do that. So I think I would agree with Meg, though. Let's maybe cut that pavement maintenance in half to start with. I feel like Dartmouth might be one of those ones that we need to get close to, if not all the way through, to kind of have that. And then as we go through other ones, I can provide input on those as well.
Colin, I have from my worksheet that they asked for 740,000 last year for that Dartmouth US 85 to South Platte, but we didn't give them any. But in either case, it's much less than what they had asked for, so.
Kate Townley?
I was just gonna throw out there, you know, with the ERC upgrades and the parking lot maintenance, that they also have a separate budget for some of those items. So I don't know if, like, for me, I wouldn't prioritize it as much in this budget, although I love the recreation center. And I guess for me, I was just gonna throw out there that I would prioritize the ramps, the ADA accessible ramps and the sidewalk gaps, and as well as some of the walk and wheel pieces, because I think you can get a lot for 250,000.
I'm sorry, what was the second one? I got ADA compliance and I'm
The
sorry. Kate,
sidewalk gaps,
I gotta find it.
Oh,
Did I pass it? There we
yeah,
go.
line
Thank you, Brooke.
26.
Yeah, thank you, Brooke. And walk and wheel, right there. Okay, so we are currently at 4.65. And Kate Fuller.
Kind of to go along with what Meg was saying, I know fiber network was 1 million. And so I just want to know from that committee, what would scaling it down to like 750 or 800 look like to them? Compare that to what we spent last year, because I'm not sure.
So Kate, are you suggesting we put in until we get that answer?
I think maybe just start with 800,000
Okay.
or 750, whatever. Anyone else, if anyone has a strong preference, I don't care between the two.
I didn't raise my hand, sorry. I recall that being a conversation last year also. And I think we might have not funded it at all because they weren't ready to move forward on it. I'm really stretching my memory here, so.
It's okay.
My notes show, and Colin, you jump in too, that they asked for 500,000. We recommended yes.
And we had 300,000.
Oh, we dumped it down to 300. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Colin?
One of the big ones that was on here, and maybe it's because we did get the grant, the Broadway 285 interchange, is that no longer on here? Did that get fully funded and we don't have to worry about it?
Give me 1 second if you don't mind. Because I did not see that.
Yeah, that was a $2 million number last year.
Mhm. So, give me 1 second, sorry. Grant-related projects that are in the current year are the East Dartmouth Traffic Calming Corridor for just a little over $1 million, the Floyd Avenue and East Elady Street improvements, and then West Dartmouth Avenue multimodal safety improvements for 1.26 million. Was that what you were talking about, Colin?
Yes, and the actual 285 Broadway interchange, which I don't think I heard you say.
I did not, but that's what she provided with me earlier as far as grant projects that are in the current year.
Okay. I don't want to muddy the, okay, that maybe, sorry. And just to clarify, we are doing these together. So the public fund and the capital project fund. So we're at 4 million and we've got 8 total, right?
Correct.
Right.
Okay. First, I thought we were already.
You're up to over 5 now, so.
And you guys were talking about that 800,000 for fiber. And you started that conversation, but it seemed like that didn't get necessarily finished. You put in 800,000, Nancy, for the fiber network, but does anybody want to comment any more on that?
And again, I don't know that these were the final numbers. We put 300 towards it last year, and I think that was a cut, but I'm not showing it to be a cut on that. So I think we put in some money, but Brenda, maybe you've got thoughts.
Well, I would want to know, I work in fiber optics, and I want to know, is this for to support their IT, a citywide fiber network? Or is the city trying to provide free fiber network for the city? That's a lot, that's more money than Verizon Wireless would spend. I would want to know what that's for.
So we can have Nancy ask that question of, right?
Yes, and Brenda,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were a bit muffled. Your question was, is it for just city buildings or for the entire city?
Yes, is it for an internet for this, to provide free internet for citizens, or is this just to build out the IT infrastructure fiber network? Because I think we can get that way down.
Okay,
I believe in Brenda in the I watched the YouTube video last night, and they talked about this being mostly about trenching it to connect city buildings, but that kind of a vague, hey, municipal broadband is popular statement. And I'd love to hear, all of these when I look at that, I also ask what could make us money in the future. Where is there some return potentially on these? So I'd be very interested in more details on what this $1 million is working toward.
I do that for a living. I contract CenturyLink and companies like that to trench fiber. And $1 million would get you several miles. So I'd want to know how many miles they really need. And then we could get a better idea of how much they would need in dollars, because I don't know if they got any. It sounds like I'd like to know if they got any bids for that.
There was a lot wrapped up in that from last year when it was discussed, that is kind of pushed into the two words there. So yeah, they have more detail. I would be very interested in seeing it, and it sounds like you would as well.
Good. Well, let's just add that to the question that we asked. And but for now, should we just leave that 800 in there, or should we take it down to 500 or something like that till we get more information?
Well, yeah, it's hard to say because we can trench.
Well, we really don't know what they're asking for. Is the basic question.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So maybe we put it at 5 for now and just see where it goes. And if we need to cut it more later, we can do that once we go through everything else.
Yeah. Fiber network, it defines a very large universe. I agree.
okay, Noel?
For PC replacement, that's the industry I'm in, and I know that every time you defer that, you end up paying your people a lot of money to run around and try and get things to stretch a little longer. So I'd recommend that we fund that fully.
Which one was that? No, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
For the PC replacement,
Line 51.
yeah, as you defer, it costs more money and people to run around.
I'd like to jump in and say that any dollars we spend on alley maintenance is probably a dollar well spent. I'm very lucky to live in an area where I don't have an alley, but I drive around Englewood and virtually everybody else has an alley, and they're a muddy pit.
We
haven't either brought, I think we had like one new paving or something for next year or something like that is what we ended up funding. So this is just maintenance of them. It's not actually paving.
This is just maintenance, and who gets to win the lottery to get their alley done, but that's a whole different topic. But I just, at least for now, thank you, Nancy. I'm suggesting that we go ahead and fully fund the 150,000 that they're asking for.
If I could jump in, I went to the big 300 page, and if you want, let me stop sharing this particular screen, and I'll share this current screen that talks about the infrastructure and see if that answers your question.
Oh, it's back to the fiber network. Okay, good.
Or fiber network, I'm sorry, yeah.
I just did a search on that. I couldn't find it. So, okay.
So it's to city facilities.
Provides for the installation of high speed to several facilities as well as,
Is that big enough, Brenda, or do you
Well-
need it larger?
That
I'm
helps.
gonna guess they want to connect, say, the rec center, Pirates Cove, and of course the police department. That makes sense. Yeah, they don't have to do, I get what they're doing. That's a lot of money. The fiber optic, that is a bad, it's more like they want to upgrade their communication systems.
Okay, well, let's see how they
but-
answer their question back to us, and just leave the dollar amounts there. Does that work for you, Brenda?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
And we also have another, in that subtopic, because he just mentioned PCs, there's one in there for IT network. And I know that we had our systems were hacked not too long ago. A couple of years ago, they were, what is that called when they take them hostage? You know,
Or hijacked.
unless you pay the ransomware.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I do know, and our website could be a little better too. We might think about funding. It's it's right next to fiber optics with the PCs too. We might think about funding that.
So are you good if I stop sharing this and we go back to this spreadsheet?
Oh, yeah. Please
Okay.
do. Yeah, we decided to table that.
Let me, hold on, sorry.
Would it be helpful for all of us to sort of take a look at this list and think of the things that we don't have all that much interest in, and maybe cross things up from the bottom up? Or is that a bad idea?
Hard to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meg?
Well,
Well, before we moved on, I just wanted to follow up with what Kate was saying earlier about the concrete ramps. I think we might have missed putting dollars in for that on line 17. So I just want to make sure that we accounted for that if we were all in agreement.
Good catch.
So what did I add down below?
What's
Oh,
our
I did
total now?
the sidewalk gap construction. You still wanted that, correct?
Yeah, we talked about that. And then the ADA project.
ADA compliance.
Yeah, I think those are in facilities, if I remember correctly.
Okay. So that's where I got confused.
Yeah.
So what's our total now, Nancy?
Taking out the ADA compliance projects, we're at 5.64.
So we got a little over 200 to go.
gosh, badge.
Yeah, the badge system, I think they weren't even very excited about when talking about it based on the potential for the move to the new office. So I am in favor of starting to put zeros in some of these. And I would say the badge system would be one of those.
Okay,
Are you okay if I just hide it?
just put a 0, just so we remember what
Okay.
we talked about it, if that's all right.
Sure, of course.
My-
I
It'll
like
be-
it.
My
That's a good
memory is
idea.
terrible. Yeah,
Is the phone system null in the same realm as the other? I mean, I feel like isn't most stuff like over IP VoIP now? I mean, do we really need a phone system still? Maybe I'm just oversimplifying that.
That's actually what my company does for work, and they do end up being way more complex than you would think. And you ask, why does it need to be that complex? And then you dig into it, and it does sometimes need to be. That said, I don't know that we should necessarily put the money toward it, but that $500,000 to replace a phone system every X number of years is not completely unreasonable.
I'm sorry, Carl, I just saw your hand.
Just for clarity for me, is this list that we're seeing now, is that the one for the tier one list? Or is there multiple tier one items that are on each line here?
This is, my understanding from our finance department is this is all of the 1, 2s, and 3s, tiers 1, 2, and 3.
That we have a say over.
Yes.
There's a lot of there's many, many, many lines in that 300-page document, but these are the items that we need to make recommendations to city council.
Okay.
Kate Fuller?
We could reduce wayfinding and placemaking this year. Maybe we do 70,000 instead of 170,000.
Okay.
There.
Any big
Colin?
to that?
Oops, I'm sorry. Colin?
I guess I thought these were just the tier ones that we were looking at. Maybe I misunderstood that. So are you saying
No,
these are,
it's all of them. 1, 2, and 3.
don't we have to have a certain budget for each tier then? Or is that, did I
No.
misunderstand that? Okay, so it is.
You
And then I
can
guess-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What are the lines that are hidden? Are those?
There are
Other-
no, oh, there are ones that just had 0 in them for 2023.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Noel? Oops.
Yep, no, once again, Colin asked my question right before I did.
Okay.
Is it possible to get an indicator on here as to what are the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s? I was also under the impression that these were only the 1s.
We can look back. It looks like they're in order. So tiers, well, that's not even on there. That's interesting. Let me do some looking.
Nancy,
Like
can you scroll down to the bottom of the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
I just
give me
want
one-
to, I just want to
Yep.
see what the total is
I
for,
think we're at 5.4 million. I'm not sure.
well, I want to see what the total is for all the listed projects.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
10,395.
Okay, so I do think that tiers 1 through 3. No, you're correct. You're correct, Nancy. I believe the total of all the projects looks like 14.9 million. And that is tiers 1 through 3 within those funds total approximately 15.5 million, but the tier 1 only projects total 12 million.
Oh. I think we'd like to see that spreadsheet that shows that. That would make, well, we'll see.
What are you asking for, Chair? I'm sorry.
Well, the spreadsheet, you're coming up with a $12 million number from this spreadsheet that's before us. Is that right, Brooke?
Yeah, no, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. If you look at where Nancy is right now, at the bottom of the column that says Fund 30, that's 10.3 million.
Right.
Bottom of Fund 31 is 4.5 million.
Right.
That
Okay.
totals 14.9 million. And
yeah.
it sounds like that does represent tiers 1 through 3.
Okay.
So if you want to
So-
move away from the spreadsheet, I can go to that PowerPoint that shows which shows the projects that are tier 1, 2, and 3. Would you like to do that?
Maybe before we do that, and maybe we do go over to that spreadsheet because it does show, looks like the tier 1 are 5.4 million for the capital, like you're saying. I mean, if we can just do the tier 1s on both and then throw a little more in, and I get maybe to clear, what is the difference between tier 1, 2, and 3? Is it the preference of them? Is it the necessity of them? I don't recall exactly what that differentiates.
My understanding, Brad, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that is how the department directors have prioritized them. So like for Public Works, Maria DeAndrea and her team would have prioritized, let's say alley maintenance is a tier 1. To them, it's a higher priority than a tier 2 or a tier 3. But Brad, if I have that incorrect, please let me know.
No, I think that's right. And it's also, you know, what are the highest impacts? What is the biggest bang for the buck? That type of thing. So that's, and they are prioritized that way by the department heads.
Brenda?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's on the main page of the big PDF. And it says 52% are infrastructure, 5% are safety. And then it goes down to governance, neighborhoods, transportation 0, sustainability 11%, and 16% economy. So that's tough. I just wanted to say something about the tier 3 though at the bottom. Because of the library situation, there's a little bit of money thrown at the very bottom for a couple of things. One was a feasibility study, line 58, for a single entry exit on the east side of the library. I understand the importance of that, but if we are moving the library, and the reason is, everyone, because we might want to go ahead and give them some, I think there's a security line in here too, is we've not been able to keep any librarians in the library. Everybody's quitting because we have so many walk-ins and they're having a real hard time. They're like bouncers, not librarians. We've lost so much staff. It's really bad. Maybe if we want to forego that, I think down below, there was something about security. It's not IT cameras, it's a little bit, well, yes, security, civic center, and rec center. I don't know what that entails, but maybe they could tell us, would that be a good solution instead of the feasibility study to just close the doors on one side? And I know these are small little oogie amounts and maybe they don't matter, but I'm just very aware of that issue down there, and it is a problem.
Colin?
Just to make sure we are on track, like Michelle was saying, the very, or I guess the second page of the agenda does say that staff is requesting commission to review tier 1 projects for 30 and 31. So I'm wondering if there's a way to take out any of the tier 2 and tier 3, just so we don't have to go through the, and it might just be kind of stepping through which ones and zeroing out ones on the recommended tab for ones that are tier 2 or tier 3.
And I do apologize. That direction changed after your memo went out. And the finance department's now asking that the commission review, or not just you, but the other boards and commissions to review all of them together.
Never mind then.
That's okay. I should have clarified that. Meg?
That's okay. I'm going to get caught in the minutia. Sorry.
Meg?
Well, I was just doing some math based on the PDF that we did get, and I don't know if it's helpful just to think about, after what you just said, it might not apply as much. Tier 1 projects, the Fund 30, I came up with 6.8 million. And then Fund 31, 3.4. So we don't have as big of a gap if we are just looking at the tier 1 to reduce. But if we're supposed to be looking at all of them, I guess that point might not be very helpful, but.
Well, let me ask a follow-up question on that. Nancy, of the things that we've recommended so far, are there tier 2 and tier 3 ones in there, or do you have that information?
Let me stop sharing this particular screen and let me share a different screen. So this screen's going to show, don't look at the CTF and OSF, just start with the PIFs. this will show what's tier 1. And if this is easier for you to work off, I can flip back and forth. And then it goes into, we stop right here at 206. So that shows all the tier 1s if you're interested in doing that.
Install emergency exit.
I'm sorry, Brenda?
I'm sorry, I was just saying something out loud. I didn't see install emergency, and that's not us. We're not CPF, we're PIP. Okay.
You're PIF and CPF.
Oh, we are CPF, okay.
Yeah, that's Fund 31. So it's
I think
however the
what would be, I
commission
like the
wishes to.
spreadsheet because we can be actively going back and forth. I think it would be great if you have that other, if you have this documents off to the side for you, and we can just go down that
Okay.
column and just say which one's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then we can kind of be able to then say, okay, these are the ones, at least we know that. And then between 2 and 3, I don't know that it matters as much as long as we know which ones are the tier 1s.
Okay, give me a second.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for doing all this
Sure.
manipulation for us.
Kate Fuller. Oops, Kate went off. Meg, actually.
Sorry, I just forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, okay. Kate Townley.
I just noticed that the sidewalk gap construction is actually tier 2 and not tier 1, just to make a note of that.
Okay, give me a second, please. I'm trying to flip between screens. I'm sorry, Kate, what was that?
The
The which one?
Sidewalk gap, number 26.
Thank you. So that's a tier 2. Okay.
I think Kate Fuller has her hand up. I'm not
Yes,
sure.
she does. Kate,
Are we able to lower Dartmouth to 750 to save room for some other things?
Dartmouth Avenue here.
Yeah, and then I know Emerald Ash Borer was, someone was telling us it really needs to be a priority for the tree canopy. So that one was 50,000, I think. And for this art in public places, I saw it's yellow. Is that because we don't need to account for that, or?
That number's, yes, we do. That number's going to be change based on how many you recommend out of this column. So it's 1% of this particular column that you recommend.
Okay.
And it's funded.
What was the other one for art? Sorry, I thought I had it written down right in front of me.
There is one public art acquisition right here.
Yeah, so I really would want to support that. I'm just wondering what the difference to, if we have to cut it a little bit this year, what that would look like or how that would impact it. If we did 200 instead of 250, or it looked like it's to maintain our existing statues and art. So I wouldn't really want to cut it if that was what they needed to maintain everything.
I'm not sure that's what they need to maintain everything, because I was on the art council. That was my first council. And they get a budget every year. And I thought that's what the 1% was. But I used to have that budget, and it's not 250 to maintain everything every year.
It does say it's
No.
acquisition, public art acquisition, and it's replacing outdoor art over time, replacing outdoor art over time as needed. And procuring new art for the city. Maintenance of art is also included in the annual cost, outdoor pieces of artwork. And
No.
I support art. I feel like that might, I would like to see that maybe a little bit lower than 250,000, considering we're only putting in, that much for, some of the ramps and things like that I think are safety issues and things.
Yeah, to like spread the love around, since there's going to be cuts
Yeah,
everywhere.
how about
it seems like.
50? Yeah, how about 50,000? If you ask people if they'd rather have their alleys paved or they'd like another piece of art, I think they'll go to the alleys paved. How about a public piece of acquisition for about 50,000. I know that's cheap, but
Well, but there is
Yeah.
also that mandatory, what is it, 1% for public art in the capital construction budget. So,
Which would end up being another 50, so maybe it's 100. 100 seem more
Right.
reasonable to me, so maybe if we put 50 there, and then we have 50 in the art and public-ish.
right.
yeah, there you go.
But I agree. I think people's at the top of the mind in people's Englewood world is things like alleys and, public safety and things like that. So,
Yeah, have a fit. I don't want to tell them.
Another idea to throw out is there's a line item, I don't recall which one it is, but it's ADA compliance. Which
Mhm.
seems to me that might be something that we really should take, thank you,
Okay.
yeah, before a positive view upon.
I would agree.
And then right below it is that
did.
public places for 1%. So
We did do 50,000 for that for ADA compliance last year.
I'm happy to reduce it. I just think that we should show good effort, good faith.
What's consensus, 100 or 50?
Put 50 in now. That's fine with me.
Okay.
Did we fully address the library issue with doing the study or installing emergency exits in the library or actually changing to the west side closure? Did we get that discussion all threshed out?
I was just wondering, is it going to be, it's going to be some time before we have a new library and a new city center. So for 15,000, they want to know if they should, and it's a little confusing because they want a feasibility for a single entrance, but then they also want a budget for an emergency exit.
Well,
at
and
the
then
library.
I also would remind you, you also brought up that the security camera on line 67, I think that's maybe like the first priority from what I'm hearing from you, and then those studies and other things might come down the road.
I think a security civic center at the rec center, security civic center. I think that's a good 20,000 well spent. That might help them. They only have to have, I think, a head count for one security guard. Maybe that would, I don't know, that's for the whole civic center too, it's just not the library that keeps somebody
Is
from just coming in and moving
zero-
around. They smoke pot in the elevator. It's not good.
Okay, Brenda.
I'd like-
So did you want to put money in the 20,000 into security civic center?
But it's a tier 0. I don't know if that's better, like if that's like an essential or a don't care at all.
Or is it a want to
Interesting.
have? Tier 0.
Well, Nancy, I guess we have another question for them is what does tier 0 mean?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see it on here. Tier 0 on this.
So let's leave it at 0 for now.
All right, we'll come back to that. We table the whole library thing.
Okay.
What's road and bridge?
It's here or what is it?
That's just kind of vague.
Okay,
That's
let me
it.
see if I can find out.
The potholes, do we have a bridge falling down?
The Dartmouth Avenue, is that what we said?
I think it's on page 143 in our packet.
Thank you, Kate. That's amazing.
Yes, it is, 140.
There's a cheat sheet on page, I think, like 14, 15, 16, where all of them are listed on the left column. And that shows you the page.
You don't have to give away your secrets.
Road and bridge, as well as the, I forget the wording of the security one at the bottom, you were just talking, or sorry, road and bridge and facilities and operations. both really have no info in them, in the description and justification in the large PDF. So that those would be two that I would be interested, Nancy, in getting some more information on.
I'm sorry, I got bridge repairs. I found that one. There isn't a justification. What was the other one, Noel?
Road and bridge, and I think facilities and operation might be the other.
Okay.
I can't get that page to open.
Okay, Brenda, did you have a question? Your hand's up.
Oh, sorry, no, I'll put my hand down.
Okay, Colin?
So going back to Dartmouth Avenue reconstruct, like I said, we kind of kicked the can on that one last year, and it's the basically the section of payment that goes towards the wastewater treatment plant. So it's kind of a big one for our utilities, and it's something that they've been. I feel like it was part of the conversation during the meeting that something like if they don't do it now, it's never going to happen. But I don't remember if they said that was a good or a bad thing per se. It is a tier one, you know, and because of the reality of what we have, I think I would lean towards at least putting the 750 towards it as a something that we need to maintain because it is in bad shape. Just throwing that out there. And I would agree though with Noel about the road and bridge. There's like nothing in here about it, and it almost looks like, I think what do they say? It's the come on, infrastructure, curbs, sidewalks, and streets.
Which is everything.
Yeah. So it feels like a little bit of a slush fund, which if that's the case, then I don't think we allocate anything towards it unless we've got some extra money to put there, which I don't think we will. And that one's not called out as a tier either, now that I say that.
Actually, your
well, no, it
bridge
is a tier one.
repair is tier one.
It is
yeah.
tier one. I'm sorry, on the description page.
I'm
it was
trying
not,
to
so.
get these filled in for you.
Thank you.
Talking.
You think Kate had a question? I know you're multitasking, Nancy, so I'm trying to help you out.
I so appreciate that. Yes, Kate Fuller.
Kate Fuller, please.
So mine wasn't a question, but I was just going to advocate for the flower bed program. But I was trying to look up the page to learn a little bit more about the 40,000 because it sounds low on our sheet. But as I thought about it, I honestly have a black thumb, so I'm not an expert with flower beds. So I was just going to look up to see if that was a good amount of money, or maybe we did reduce to like 35 or something.
What line item is it, Kate? I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it.
You just went past it.
I did.
Yes, I think so.
Although,
Oh,
A little bit further up, I think.
well, and I wanted to make a comment too that might help, or maybe it just confuses everything. That I think last year we had a conversation about let's make sure that we try to allocate money, or at least recognize by giving money to projects that really touch our citizens. And just want to throw that out there as a thought to help you focus your thoughts on what we need to fund and not fund. That's all.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not seeing it on your spreadsheet now,
Yeah.
but
It's part of the open space fund. I just
Yeah, I was
found
going
it,
to say that
Kate.
sounds like open space. Thank you.
So that's not one that we get to deal with.
oh, okay. I must have been looking in the wrong place. I was like, we have to fund those.
I was actually, yeah, I'm on board with it, and I was like, no.
So your secret has flaws in terms of
Yes,
what finding the
It's
pages.
not as filtered as it seems.
Nope, just kidding. Do you think Meg and Noel have hands up, Nancy?
Yep, Meg. Thank you.
Sure.
I guess along the lines of, Michelle, what you were just talking about, this is more philosophical statement, but I don't know. I've been looking at some of these smaller dollars, like a 15,000 feasibility study. I guess one of my questions is that enough breathing room in an operating budget of a department, or that could be absorbed elsewhere and not take away from these larger projects that do require, significant more more
Ab-
resources. I know 15,000 is a small number in this grand scheme, but it could also be, you know, able to be fit elsewhere in budgets. And I guess, I don't know if city staff has any insight into that. Because the bigger projects are harder to fund. So the more we can fund of more expensive projects, I think that is always beneficial for departments to move things forward.
I totally agree. The most bang for the buck is, I think, all of the commissioners' priority. And maybe some of the smaller ones that might be better thought of would be like some of this. I think there are some benches and things like that around the transportation, but you're absolutely right. We only have a limited amount of funds. We need to make the most bang for the buck. Absolutely.
Kate Fuller.
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, Noel.
One thing that came up, I think it was last year around flowers, was whether we're, the city is moving toward more water-friendly plantings. And I think we had someone here with us last time from that department and didn't really get an answer on that. So I'm just not sure if that is something that has been further considered.
We can certainly put that question out to our Parks and Recreation Director.
I'm guessing flowers are not a capital expense, but
Correct, but we can still try to get an answer.
I
absolutely.
thought it was actually in the list. Wasn't that the $40,000 towards plantings and parks and in roadways?
Yeah, where is that?
Believe that's an open space though.
I think it's in the open space
Yeah.
fund.
And we
Brenda?
don't do that. Yeah, I was just gonna say, we used to do this big flower spread near Hampton in the shape of the Englewood logo out of poinsettias. But there has been a movement within Keep Englewood Beautiful and some to create native species gardens like they did by the off Dartmouth there by our old Englewood station. So I don't know if we need to fund it, but that wasn't what I wanted to ask. What I wanted to ask was in some of the specific line items like Union Avenue Bridge. If they're asking for 400,000, if we were just to give them 200,000, can they really get the whole project done? I mean, is it really up to us to say, no, you can't have all of it, you can only have some of them? Does that mean we only get half the bridge done? The point I'm trying to make is that some of them specific, like Union and possibly Dartmouth, have these dollars amounts because that's what it needs to get the whole project done. Anybody know the answer to that? And do you get the gist of what I'm saying?
So I'm looking at the sheet. I don't know if this will help you, Brenda, but for Union Avenue Bridge rehab, it's a tier 1. They're requesting $400,000 in 2023, and the request for 2024 is 1.8.
So it seems like maybe 400,000 to keep the thing from falling down and 1.8 to redo it. Now, sometimes when you don't spend it this year, that 1.8 could turn into more money if we don't do something this year. And then later on, it costs way more money to do. Could we find out if that's true about this project?
What
Could I add a
the-
point?
Go ahead, Brad. Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
sorry. When you see those numbers for some of these larger items relative to some of the bridge projects and the major street projects, what you see is if you see a smaller number in the first year and a larger number in the second year, that's typically the first number is design, and then the second number is construction. So I do think you raise a good point, Brenda, about if the design is priced at $400,000 and it's, you recommend 2, there is a gap created there. But in general, it doesn't apply to every project, but a lot of the public works projects have a design element in one year, and then that's followed in out years with construction.
Thank you,
Brad,
Brad.
can you expand on that? Maybe is it also a recognition that maybe they know we can't get all $2.2 million in 1 year, so it's putting some money towards some of the construction, and maybe that design isn't as much. Also,
Definitely. Because unlike the general fund, the capital funds can carry over year to year. So they can essentially, yes, be a bank
Oh,
for construction in the future. Yes.
Okay, Colin?
yeah, one other question that I had is on some of these items, like road and bridge, that we put 300,000 to, the concrete utility city share, 325,000 to. I think we asked earlier, and I don't know that. I think we were looking at what we budgeted for last year, but I think Mike might have asked, and I don't know if this is true. What do we actually spend in those? Like, are we spending that whole money? Are we not spending it? Like, should we allocate it a little bit better? I guess, is there any way to find out that information maybe before next meeting? Obviously, it's not something we can find out today, but something that would be good on some of these more generic numbers, what they actually spent in those.
Yes, we can certainly do that. And Brad may be able to speak to this. Sometimes are we just not banking the money till we get to the total before we spend any? Do you know that answer, Brad?
I don't know that specifically. I think it might vary by project, but obviously for some of these large capital expenses, it is a multi-year banking effort to try to get to the point at which we're either matching funds with others or doing it ourselves as the city.
makes sense.
I can run a capital project report and see. We can have that for the next meeting, if that works for everyone.
Yeah, that'd be great, Nancy. Thank you.
Noel?
I really appreciated in previous years having the directors come to our meeting to be able to answer some of these questions in real time. And I definitely understand that it's a large drain on their time for the number of places they'd have to go. But just a bit concerned that if we send one list of questions over after tonight, that will then get answers back that we'll review next time, that will then don't really have an opportunity to get another round, kind of like email versus a phone call.
Okay.
Noel, I'll note that and I will share that with my colleagues.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have, I think, 2 million and change to allocate, and any further suggestions or?
Well, let's run through, if it's okay, maybe we can just get the rest of them tier ones identified so we can, like the concrete utility is a tier 1. I saw that.
Okay.
And Kate has a question, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, from previous years, signal equipment upgrade replacement seemed like it was required in a way for 150. So just to get clarity on that, but we might want to account for it now. But ask the question just in case.
Agreed.
Okay, and Noel?
If I recall, a new signal was 900,000. So yes, that amount to maintain them is good. The network development IT, I think we should fund that fully, and that's a similar where if you let end of life devices stick around, you end up paying more in people costs.
Okay. So what's the bottom line now, Nancy?
Give me 1 second, please.
No problem.
Where it's just a little over 6 million.
Okay.
So you got 2 million.
Yeah, I got 2 million in my bank account. Yeah.
I often joke that my work-life finances are very different than my personal finances.
Exactly.
It's only going to be another $20,000. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Can you scroll down a little bit, Nancy? I'm just trying to pick out the big ticket items that we might not have addressed yet, which would be the service center, facility construction. Any information on that?
Give me 1 second, please.
Okay.
Hmm.
It's on
Yeah.
page 201 of our packet, but my packet's not loading currently.
That's another one of
Very
those.
slow to load right now.
It's 1.25 this year and $15 million requested for next year.
I guess that goes back to Brad's theory of design costs and starting construction in the first year, and then you get the real bill in the second year.
And it is a tier 1 also, just as an aside, Nancy.
And it does explicitly state that it's design phase work.
For 1.2, no?
1.2.
Correct, on page 204.
So do we think we should add that to the list? That's going to only leave us about $750,000 left.
I guess, is that the part of the DDA redevelopment, putting in a new building? And I guess, does that at all influence our thoughts on the library and the fact that we're putting $50,000 if we're doing the security and the other doors, but we're also looking at, this looks like it's a new, this says reconstruct centralized public works department facility at the service center site.
Yeah, Nancy, can you open page 204 of our packet? Because I can't get mine to load, and it's a pretty big dollar amount, and we should probably just look at them before we end it.
And
Because
sorry,
you're
correction, I
right.
was mixing up this one. On page 201, it does not mention design. It's consolidation of public works staff into one modern facility.
Consolidation. Public works staff into one facility.
Reconstruct centralized public works department facility at the service center site.
Where's the service center?
It's like, looks like the service center gets is getting money from a lot of different funds.
They would be located elsewhere. They wouldn't be in the DDA zone. Downtown authority area. Is that what we're saying?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing that. What is this in relationship to the Downtown Development Authority? I asked for clarification.
There was a discussion that the public works building would be relocated within the DDA into a different facility. Is that what this $15 million would be for?
So that's the construction of a building at the service center, which is just north of the water treatment plant. So it would be part of Public Works would be vacating the Civic Center area, irrespective of whether the building stays or it's replaced during the redevelopment, because it would consolidate their operations in that area. That's not within the DDA area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Maybe get Brad real quick, if you do know $15 million, I mean, I don't know that we're gonna have $15 million. Is there expectation we're getting money from someplace else or other funding sources, or?
Yeah, I think there's multiple funds involved in that, including some of the utility funds relative to some of the but not these two funds. There's elsewhere as well.
Kate Townley?
Are there safety concerns with the existing facility or more so wanting to modernize?
It's modernized, and both Public Works, utilities, and wastewater all have staff working in temporary trailers throughout the city. So it's really kind of right sizing the operations for the longer term future in a consolidated location.
Just realized it actually has its own fund, the Service Center Fund, as opposed to I mean, there's multiple funds contributing money to it, but there's also its own fund as well.
I believe that's correct, yes.
I would be for that.
Kate Fuller?
Facilities and operations had a big dollar amount next to it, and it didn't have a lot of information in our packet. So I was just wondering if someone on the call, or we could get an answer from someone, could sort of give us more insight to what that goes towards, or what we spent on it last year.
And we did put 884 to it last year, or I'm sorry, 844 to it last year, so it's slightly lower, so maybe that means that it didn't use all of it. I'm not sure.
And I saw the request for the money goes up for the next 2 years and then it goes back to $1 million after that, but it seems like this is a lower year in comparison, so I don't know what that means.
Okay, do the commissioners have other comments on any of these line items? And I have a question for Brooke. Do you feel that having a mere $750,000 left to spend is a good enough progress until we get answers to these questions?
I think so. I think so, and it'll give the commission a little bit of time to mull it over. Yeah, I think there's been some good progress made.
Okay.
Carl?
We're asking for more information on the road and bridge, and then there's another one that bridge repair or bridge something right below the few down from that. What is the difference between those two? Bridge repairs, there it was.
What's the line item, Carl? I'm sorry. See road and bridge, which is line 11. and
I saw it there.
It must be further down.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, bridge repairs 49.
Tier
Can
one.
we get information on the road and bridge repair? What is the difference there?
Good catch, Carl.
Yeah, good catch.
Meg?
I was just wondering if we could run through, now that you've taken the time to put all the tier ones in, and just see if there are any that we haven't allocated any funds to. Would be
Full disclosure, I haven't gotten all the tier, I'm not sure I've gotten all the tier ones
Oh.
in, but I'm working as fast as I can. So there are some that you haven't put funds in that are tier ones, and I'll keep working on that if you want, or I can fill them in and send them out to you for the next meeting, whatever your pleasure.
Meg, would have Nancy fill this that first column out and send that to us for the next meeting? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, that works. I saw a lot being populated, so I thought that the tier ones might have been identified, but if you're not all the way through, we can do it that way.
No, I'm not. I do apologize.
No, that's okay. That works to look at
You're
them.
You're
for
one
next time.
person, one computer and one keyboard. You're doing the best you can. So we're good.
Thank you. Noel?
A few of you mentioned having difficulty opening or using this file. For large files like this, if you're not already, try using the Adobe Acrobat Reader as opposed to just opening it in your browser. It's just a lot better at large PDFs with lots of pictures.
Okay.
I'm downloading. Download.
Nancy, concrete program is a tier one also that you have right there on line 17. Yeah, and Parks and Rec. That said, that's another one I'd like to, again, more information. I'd love to just see what they spent last year. I don't know if it's similar to the more information request. There's a couple of them that feel like they're just funds. And if they're using all those, then, I think I'd support utilizing them, continue to use them. If they're, being reallocated other places, I'd love to see that also.
So are you talking about both line 14 and line 17? Just to clarify for Nancy's
You're talking about the concrete utility city share. You want more information, Carl? Or excuse me, Colin?
So that one is all, again, for wanting more information, what did they spend on them? And I guess I'm not sure if that means more information. Some of them, there's like nothing in the program details. Some of them, like concrete utility fund, has annual repair to damaged concrete, gutter and pan. So they kind of explain a little bit more, but I'd love to know what they actually spent last year, if that's a possibility.
Okay, so it's just line 14 that you're concerned about. Okay, I just want to clarify.
Yeah,
for-
but no, but I mean, the concrete program accessible ramps, you know, what did they
Okay,
spend on that? I think would be interesting also.
okay. I just want to clarify.
No, I appreciate that.
So Nancy, what do we need? Do we need to have a motion for the draft capital improvements? Or what do we need to move forward here?
No, since either, Brad's going to talk to the directors and to see if they can attend next, or we'll get answers, or I think we're good for now, because this is still very draft and it'll stay a draft. Because it's a working document, so we're good
Okay,
for what we have right now. If Colin?
I just was gonna build on that, and just a reminder, if everyone can be here and ready to go next in 2 weeks, I'm sorry, and that's what I was gonna clarify, is it the 17th is what we're saying? Is that next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so that we can just knock them all out. And is that the only, well, I guess that might not be too early. Is that the only thing that we're going to be looking at next meeting?
There will be a UDC steering committee meeting at 6 o'clock. And Brian, Brad, or Brooke, I'm unaware of any other items for the agenda, but are you?
I'm not aware of any other items for the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda, other than the steering committee meeting at 6 that you mentioned.
okay, good. Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is staff's choice, and the first one is up, pending cases at City Council.
That's just if I may, Chair, that's just a placeholder for if there are any items that the
Oh.
Planning Commission has recommended to City Council and has proceeded. We don't have any current PUDs at City Council, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I've sent out the updates on the last 3 that were approved by council.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, it's still staff's choice though, so. Nancy, Brooke, Brad?
I do not have anything to add.
Nothing else from me. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I would just ask if if you're reviewing this and you have other questions, just shoot those to us. And I will see if I can't find what was spent last year on these various projects and have that for your packet.
Great, thank you so much. And I don't know, is Brian still on? Does he have anything to add to staff's choice?
I do not have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, well, great work today. And yeah, I agree that we all need to make sure we send our questions through Nancy so that we can basically finalize our recommendation next meeting. Okay, we're on to attorney's choice.
Hi there. So I don't have anything really to report at this time. I did just want to remind all of you, we had sent around some emails about open meeting laws, and just to continue to adhere to those. There's no issues that we're aware of with respect to your commission, but just a general reminder to adhere to those practices. And to the extent that you're ever, just another broad reminder that if a developer were to contact you in your individual capacity, to make sure that any conversations take place in the form of a public hearing, especially when that developer has business before the city.
So don't let them buy me an expensive lunch is what you're saying.
Correct.
I think Colin has his hand up.
Just to confirm, that's developer, does that include any of their team also, or is that just the developer, owner, property person?
You know, I think to avoid any perception of impropriety, should include the entire team, especially where you know that that team is going to have business before the city and before your committee.
Given recent headlines, I'm an old-fashioned person that still gets the paper on my driveway. There's been some other entities that have been in some problems, so I appreciate the reminder about that. So, all right, Commissioner's choice. Colin?
Thank you.
Brenda?
I'm good.
Carl?
I have a question on the open meetings. Is that considered to be the planning, Englewood planning group, when they meet with SKB and Triba? Is that a public meeting?
Are you referring to city staff, like when they meet with developers or?
No, he means when they have public hearings in the neighborhood, when they're just, for instance, you know, they send an invite to everybody and we're at those meetings because we're residents. So we're going to ask questions. Now, we're not representing planning and zoning at that point. We're merely residents. I think that's what he's trying to clarify.
Right, yeah.
Got it. I understand. So in those situations, when there's 3 or more of you, and that you want to make sure that you're not speaking together where you're making any kind of decision or deliberation at those meetings, because we want to make sure that it's properly noticed and put on an agenda. It's fine for you to be at those meetings and ask questions. You're residents of the community, you have that right. But you just want to be mindful about how you're, you know, if you're sitting together, you probably should refrain from doing that to make sure that you're not making any or being seen or it appears that you're making any kind of decision outside of this context.
So does that go for planning and the planning department and the developers and the architects? Because they usually have 2 or 3 people per team there. So that's multiple people.
Right. So I mean, those conversations are taking place in the open in front of other constituents where they're able to hear what those what those conversations are all about. And there is notice provided about when those meetings take place. So I don't think we're running afoul of an open meeting violation in that context.
Are the planning, the developer meetings, are they public? Are they publicized somewhere? And open meetings?
If it's the same kind of meetings that we were just talking about, where residents are you know, these are like town, you know, forums, like that kind of a situation, I think that they would still qualify. I'm not, when you're saying developer meeting, I might not know. I'm worried I don't know what you mean.
So Carl, do you mean like when they, I'm sorry, Carl, do you mean like when the development companies come down to City Hall and talk about their plans and things like that? Are those meetings open? I think we're trying to clarify what meetings you're talking about.
Not the meetings when they come to talk to
staff.
It's meetings that they have when they're getting together with one another.
Oh, if it's just, yeah, if it's just among themselves, that's not required to be noticed now.
No.
You're saying if it's a meeting amongst the developers themselves and among their team?
With the planning group of the Englewood and the architects that are designing the development.
Well, I mean, is there any commissioner that's present at that meeting?
Carl, it might
can-
make a difference if it's, if the commission has already made a decision or a zone change has already happened or something like that, and those meetings are happening to implement a project, like after a decision has been made, then I wouldn't see those as needing to be open meetings, that those are more, kind of going through city processes. Whereas if it was a developer who has a proposed project coming into the city and this, people were meeting with them or we were meeting with them and there's a decision coming up, then I think that would have to be posted or more open. Is that what you're asking about?
I'm not talking about when a decision is made. It's like, I can't get together with two other planning and zoning people, but seems like they can get together with a dozen people and talk about what they're gonna do with Englewood. But I can't get together with two other people. I don't see, it doesn't seem to be fair. If their meetings are open, that would be fine, but if they're open and published as to where they are and what time they are.
I think this is a really good question. I think I'm just not necessarily aware of that practice taking place. So I might be struggling to understand whether there are commissioners, more than 3 commissioners present, where decisions are getting made with developers. I just might not know what it is you're referring to. But I mean, certainly as Kate discussed and mentioned, to the extent that there's a decision that's being brought before this commission regarding a developer, those decisions need to be made in an open forum with, as such as this.
Carl, are you trying to describe a situation that's happened in the past? Would that help?
No, it's happening all the time. It's they're having their meetings and then they come to us to tell us what their plan is. And I'd like to be aware of that. I can't do that myself. I can't meet with a couple other people, but they can. That doesn't seem to be fair to me.
I think, I don't want to complicate what you're trying to explain, but it might be a public versus private conversation. And I think, Carl, what you're describing are like the private entities, consultants, developers, and we're arms of a public government. And so we have rules that pertain to us under the open meeting laws, whereas the private entities don't. So I think that's what I'm hearing you describe as the difference, or Victoria, if that helps you.
Yeah, with that clarification, that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong. It does sound like you're talking about a situation when it's the private developers meeting with the consultants or city staff, and because there aren't elected or appointed officials involved, open meeting laws aren't being implicated.
So Carl, are there situations that the commissioners have been meeting with some of the developers and things like that involved, or are you mainly talking about staff?
Staff and the developers and architects.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the situation, again, because it's not an elected or an appointed official that are involved in those meetings, there's not that open meeting requirement attached.
All right.
Okay, I'm still on Commissioner's choice. Carl, do you have anything further?
One thing that we talked about, this is back on the list, that the gardens that are planted, most of those, the labor on that is volunteer. Many people volunteer to plant those gardens, and the 40,000, I don't know what that's for, but there's a lot of volunteers that are involved with planting those gardens and weeding them later on. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you. I'm done.
Well, and I thank them for doing that because that sounds like manual labor that I've got enough controlling my own in my backyard rather than go to stuff for the city. So Kate Townley.
Well, maybe they can build a greenhouse with the new public works facility building and continue. Then that way we can keep growing our own flowers or prettials and things like that within the city. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Meg?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Kate Fuller?
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Noel?
Nothing further this evening.
Okay. Seeing no other business before the commission, I will declare this meeting adjourned. And thank you all so much for your hard work tonight. But don't let up. We've got to make sure we get this all buttoned up at the next meeting. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.